Oh dear, it's not looking good. What's going on, gang, and welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I hope you're doing well, mate. I genuinely do hope that, and welcome back to what is a Chelsea news video / match preview. That's right, international football, be gone. I've enjoyed it as an England fan, kind of, with an immaculate record under Tommy Tuchel. I've enjoyed the likes of Estevao making headlines, of course, for Brazil in international football on the big stage, but I do welcome back the reintroduction of the Premier League greatness. And that's right, Chelsea are going away to try and breach those stubborn gates at Turf Moor. Away to Burnley. Not the best fixture. I mean, it's an easy opposition, apparently inverted commas. We've got a good record there. But ultimately, it's going to be ruddy freezing at Turf Moor. Early kickoff after an international break. It's not what you want, really. No. Certain players are unavailable. The Chelsea news sector of today's video will be speaking about what Maresca said in his pre-match press conference. We'll look at Burnley. We'll talk about who's available to play for Chelsea. And huge points, huge 3 points on the table. Of course, we play first. What if Arsenal lose to Tottenham? It could happen. It's unlikely. But if we beat Burnley, we'll be 3 points off the top of the Premier League. Potentially, depending on how things go. Very exciting, really. So yeah, man, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Please do consider supporting the content, dropping a like, subscribing, commenting. If you do subscribe, hit the bell notifications icon. I think we're under 100 subscribers off 200,000. Of course, 199,000, few hundred. It's a lot of subscribers. Everybody's welcome, so do consider subscribing. Let's get into it and start off with what Maresca's been saying in his presser. So the first story of today is regarding Axel Disasi. Of course, we saw on the headlines that he'd trained with the first team, that he'd been behaving well, and that he'd been reintegrated into the first team under Enzo Maresca. Right? Wrong! Maresca poured cold water all over this and essentially said he's helping the second team, the under-21s. Of course, he's been captaining them and playing in games, and he trained with Maresca's first team once over the international break, where he had 5 senior players to train with him. So he brought in a bunch of kids, and with those kids was Axel Disasi, who's been helping out the under-21s. So, you know, he's very, very short with the journalists, like, nope, they're Chelsea player, Disasi's a Chelsea player, Raheem Sterling's a Chelsea player, but they're not in the plans at the moment. So nothing's moved. Sterling's certainly not going to be reintegrated, and the stories regarding Axel Disasi, could he be utilised? It's no, essentially. He's gone back to the under-21s. He will almost certainly find a solution in January. I do think he's just keeping himself fit. He's being professional, so all credit to him. And I think there'll be a few clubs that'll be in for him, and Chelsea will find a landing spot for Axel Disasi much easier than Raheem Sterling, especially if Sterling's rejecting the likes of Bayern Munich and Napoli. Who knows what's going to happen with Raheem? But I do think Disasi will find a January landing spot for him. And no, the rumours are incorrect. He is not going to be reintegrated with the Chelsea first team. Right then, some general news of players returning. Maresca spoke about how he hasn't seen Moises Caicedo yet. He did go away with his international team and play. I thought he just played 1 game, but apparently I think he played 2. So he's not actually trained with Chelsea yet, and therefore it's a bit concerning. Benoit is back, which is a welcome addition. I've spoken about how important that is to have a left-sided, left-footed centre-back available. That is not Jarell Hatto. He also explains how both Enzo Fernandez and Pedro Neto have recovered well. Of course, neither went away with their international teams, and they are good to go. So where does that leave us? Well, we know the players that are injured. Levi Colwill is out for a long time. We know that both Dario Asugo and Romeo Lavia are unavailable, making our midfield option short. Moises Caicedo travelling a lot and only just getting back and not training with the team yet. Concerns me, I must say, quite a lot, especially we've been massively overplaying Caicedo in recent months, even when he's not at 100%, and I'm really wary of playing players through like slight injuries or niggles and stuff, so I'm really, really worried about Caicedo. But similarly, another midfielder who we've protected well, Enzo Fernandez, who's been available and training with, Maresca all for the last sort of couple of weeks and ready to go for a Premier League game. That's really, really good and really important to have Chelsea's vice-captain there and ready, especially Pedro Neto. I reacted, was it yesterday or the day before, to a news story about how Pedro Neto is a favourite of Enzo Maresca. You know, of course, he plays on both sides and both wings, as well as, you know, the striker position he's trusted. He defends really well. He can run for 90 minutes. And yeah, he's completely recovered and good to go, which is hugely important. Spoiler, in my lineup, I do start him over Estevao. Estevao was, of course, mentioned of Enzo Maresca. He's like, yep, we're delighted with him. Scored 2 goals over international break. We're really, really happy. Of course, I know he only played in Europe, but he still played 2 games. I think he played 90 minutes midweek, so, you know, he's going to be knackered. He doesn't like the cold. Young Estevao, we've seen. Turf Moor's going to be ruddy freezing. He's going to be knackered. We've got a fully rested Pedro Neto, who's been preparing for this game for, you know, over a week. So, but everyone's really happy with how Estevao's going. But is that all the injury news? I'm afraid not. So many of you would have seen this on social media, through news sites. Cole Palmer has broken his toe. His groin injury, which was the main concern, was healing well, and he was about to return to the main group. So that's what we were all thinking. That's what we heard, that he could play a little bit, probably, maybe come off the bench against Burnley and be available, I don't know, for both Barcelona and Arsenal, or maybe, you know, 1.5 of those games. That's what his main injury, the groin injury, was dictating, that he was going to be back for those. But no, he stubbed his toe, his little toe at home, and he's fractured the bone. So Maresca essentially said, yeah, he's not going to be available for a couple of weeks, which is really frustrating because we all wanted the grand return for the high-profile games. Barcelona and Arsenal, I mean, you know, 2 rivals of Chelsea for different reasons. It would have been so good if he can come back. And one thing we know about Cole Palmer is he rises to the big occasion, the high-profile games, whether it's scoring against Man City, whether it's scoring like 2 late goals against his boyhood club, Man United, whether it's cup finals in the Conference League or indeed the Club World Cup final, winning man of the match in both. He's a man for the big occasion, and Barcelona and Arsenal are big occasions, so we were all desperately hoping that Cole Palmer could be ready and ready to be reintegrated into the side. It's super frustrating. Ultimately, a fractured toe isn't the end of the world. Apparently, this is little toe. Basically, he stubbed his toe and broke it, which makes my skin crawl in terms of how much that hurts. We've all stubbed our toe, you know, in the night or something, getting up for a whiz, and it's the worst thing in the world. To do it to the point where you fractured your toe. The problem is, maybe if it was like another toe, like a middle toe or something, I don't know how you'd fracture just your middle toe. It might be alright, but because it's the little one, with football boots, the way they compress the toes on the outside, especially a little toe, it gets really squished into a football boot. That's the issue, and, you know, you just can't kick a football. So he was walking around apparently with no shoe or sock on the hurt foot, but very, very frustrating. He would have been despo to get back for these games. You know, everyone's talking about how he's just desperate to be playing again so he can get caught. So Thomas Tuchel can look at him and be like, right, Cole Palmer's back. He's scoring and assisting for Chelsea. I'm going to call him up for my final international break before the World Cup, which of course is in March. If for some reason Cole Palmer doesn't get called up in March through injury or one thing or another, I think he can kiss his World Cup goodbye. He needs to play really well for Chelsea for the next few weeks, ensure he gets called up for the final international break, impress Tuchel in that camp, and then it will get called up for the World Cup squad. I don't, you know, and that's just to get in the squad. I don't think he'll be at a point now where he can start. I keep saying it on this channel and the sister channel, Football Yannick, that Tuchel's here for a good time, not a long time. If Morgan Rogers already knows all his instruction more than Palmer, he'll pick Rogers. He'll think Rogers knows. I've been hammering it into his brain. So Palmer will be fuming because what better stage to demonstrate your ability to an on-watching Tuchel than against Barcelona in the Champions League, or indeed league leaders Arsenal in the Premier League. And he's now going to miss all those games. Very frustrating, very, very frustrating. Small silver lining is it's additional time for the groin to completely heal, although they seemingly were happy with it. But I would have just wanted him back for these games personally. So I'm very, very frustrated. But here is where we are. So some players back, some players unavailable, some players probably tired and fatigued, and that's where we are. So we are playing tomorrow, early kickoff against Burnley away at Turf Moor, freezing ground. I do have concerns. Let's take a look at the Burnley lineup that played last time against, high quality opposition in Arsenal. So they lost 2-0, but this is the lineup they went with, a 4-2-3-1. They can play over back five. Of course, my biggest concern is Leslie Ugochukwu, an incredibly good player that we know, we've seen. There are some good players in there. Tuanzebe was good. Kyle Walker, of course, we know. Dubravka in goal. Anthony, the young kid on the wing, he seems like a little bit of a wild card. They're outside the relegation zone at the moment. They'll be at home. They will see this as an opportunity to catch Chelsea cold after an international break in the, winter elements at home. Now, it's really, really tough after international breaks. I know recently we found a little bit of form after the breaks, but we used to always perform really badly. And if it was an early kickoff, it would be even worse. And it's got banana skin written all over it, but we have had good, games at Turf Moor, scoring lots of goals, winning games. And I know we were without Cole Palmer and Levi Colwill, and certain players are a little bit red zoning at the moment, which I'm a bit concerned about. This is still a fixture you want to go and win, and we must absolutely win this game. So Burnley are in some interesting form. They beat Leeds at home. They beat Wolves away, but, Wolves away. But then they lost to Arsenal at home 2-0, which is totally fine. They probably take that as a result, to the league leaders, not absolutely obliterating their goal difference. And then they lost 2-0 to West Ham away, which they'll probably be a bit frustrated with. West Ham yet to find their groove. Like I said, they're not in the relegation zone. They are doing okay. They're playing all right. And if you said to Burnley, right, Chelsea, they're a great team, when would you like to play them? They'd probably go, how about at home, early kickoff after an international break, please? Do you know what I mean? If they could select a time, that would be it. I know you could say early kickoff, the home fans hadn't got a chance to get, a little bit socially lubricated, say, by drinking and getting loud and boisterous. Sometimes the atmosphere is not as good, which could serve Chelsea. But in terms of like a kickoff time, that would probably suit them. So I am a little bit concerned, especially with Cole. I'm not saying we need Cole Palmer to beat Burnley. That's just a general concern that's seeped into my mind. But I built a lineup for you, and we're going to talk through it now, and it should be more than enough to beat Burnley. So here we go. As you can see, it was generally always listed as a 4-2-3-1, but it moves into a back three, often in possession. Rob Sanchez in goal will, of course, keep his place as Chelsea's first team goalkeeper. Wesley Fofana seemingly fit to play 90 minutes again. I don't think he went away with France, so he should be good to play. And the fact how Maresca said Benoit's available, he's back, and he's good to play, I'm going to partner the two Frenchmen at the centre-back positions. You could, of course, play other players in the left centre-back role. Hato, no thank you. Tosin could do it. We've seen Chalobah do it. We've seen Joshua Chiampong do it. But obviously, left-sided player, left footer, I want to play Benoit there. Of course, both French as well. There's 3 of the back line actually are French, so there could be a lot of French speaking. Kukurea, he had got an assist as well on the way on international duty. He hopefully won't be overly tired, so he's starting this game for me. And Malo Gusto, who had a great time for France over the international break. He's in scintillating form, provided he passes all fitness tests, and he shouldn't be overly knackered. I'm starting Malo Gusto at right back to complete my back four. And you're probably thinking, oh, why are you starting Gusto at right back? Even if he's in form, and surely you start James. Well, yes, as you can see, I'm still starting Reece James. I'm putting Reece James in the midfield in what I think will be the absence of Moises Caicedo, who's been overplayed, generally massively from Chelsea. Of course, we tried to give him a rest in that game. Lavia came off in the 5th minute and he had to play. So I'm actually starting Reece James in midfield as a central defensive midfielder in the absence of Moises Caicedo. Maybe give him 60 minutes and then bring on Caicedo at the end of the game. And of course, we're going to need Caicedo to start both the Barcelona and Arsenal games, so I'll be very mindful not to overcook him and start Reece James here for I'll say a good 60 minutes. Of course, Gusto can play in midfield as well, so they can swap positions should they need to, but I actually think Reece James can just play as a sitting midfielder well. He'll be partnered by the fresh, fit and ready Enzo Fernandez, captain and vice-captain, and then a double pivot. You love to see it, ladies and gentlemen. Another really easy player to pick, of course, is Pedro Neto on the right wing. He's been preparing for this game with Maresca for, the last couple of weeks or whatever. He didn't go away with Portugal because he wanted to recover an injury, which he has done, so he'll be fresh and good to go. And of course, you could always bring Estevao off the bench. But Estevao's played games for Brazil over the international break, including 90 minutes midweek, and yeah, I think the kid needs to be managed a little bit. Who knows? Maybe we'll see a wild card and Estevao start against Barcelona in the Champions League. I'd be more inclined to start him against Barca than Arsenal, for the moment at least. Similarly, Garnacho is well rested and good to go, and of course had been playing well for Chelsea before the international break. He should be fresh, fit and firing, so he is another obvious choice for me as well. Of course, Gittins played with the under-21s with England, got an injury, but apparently it wasn't bad. He's seemingly okay. Despite all that, Garnacho is the obvious selection here. Now, the striker and the number 10 is an interesting one. I've just basically, in the absence of Cole Palmer, I've put Joao Pedro behind Liam Delap. I really want to see Liam Delap run at the Burnley defence, try and beat them up a little bit, try and, occupy centre-backs. But of course, there is a world where, Burnley's sitting deep and there's no space for Delap to run into, where actually what you see is Joao Pedro stars the striker, and then perhaps you see Enzo Fernandez in the 10, and of course that would leave a space open for, say, an Andre Santos to come in and start next to Reece James. Santos, of course, excellent young player, high ceiling, we want to see more of him, so you could easily maybe drop Delap, start Pedro, give him 60 minutes, and then bring Delap on at the end. But the truth be told, Liam Delap, if he's going to be Chelsea's striker, we just need to see him on the pitch more, and we need to see how he deals with low blocks. We need to just see how he connects and, links up with Garnacho and Neto. Can they put crosses in for him? They both love putting crosses in. Can, he feed off those and get some goals? So that's my starting lineup, and that's who I think should play against Burnley at Turf Moor, with substitute appearances from, Estevao, possibly Moises Caicedo. Do you know what I mean? Maybe a couple of defenders, maybe Gittins. We'll see what happens there. Tyreek George, he'll probably come on and play as a striker. Hopefully not start as a striker. So there you have it. That's my lineup. Right, what do you think? Give me your thoughts. Who do you think should start in this game and play for Chelsea against Burnley up at Turf Moor? I'm going to go for a score prediction. Defensively, we've been pretty good this season, but despite that, purely because it's after an international break early kickoff away from home, I am going to think we might concede a goal, especially if we do have a new sort of centre-back partnership in Benoit and Wesley. I've got a little bit of concern there, but I do think we win. We get 3 important, huge points, and I'm going to predict a 3-1 away win to Maresca's Chelsea. I want Delap to get on the score sheet. I'd love Estevao to get another goal off the bench, and maybe Garnacho. That would make me very happy, and maybe a couple of assists for Pedro Neto, and an assist for Joao Pedro. There you go. There's my perfect early afternoon in terms of how I see the game going. Let me know your thoughts. Please do leave them down in the comment section below. Do keep it locked, guys. Daily content here, of course, on Football Therapy, and we are very, very close to 200,000 subscribers, so thank you so much for your continued support, for liking, subscribing, and hitting the bell if you do. Alright, mate. See you soon. Peace.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, baby.